Now I ask you to be introspective and take a moment to be reflective. So I speak to my brothers and sisters. You are my listeners. I see people claiming Hussein, but in their speech they discriminate and preach racial hate. Of my blackness do you wish to castrate? Does my skin irritate and make you conflate? Of your corrupted desires, your Iman should mediate. If you need a lesson, here is one I can relate and warn you against this satanic trait. John's blackness was good enough for the family of the Prophet, but not for you. Did you serve Hussein in your hate? Have you forgotten the noble lady who spoke with Quran daily? She stood with the leader bravely, while others ran away for safety. Her black skin was a badge of honor, neither dirty or scurvy. For Fatima, she carried her sons with mercy. Do you think her unworthy? Fida was one to amaze. Even in prison, it was God she praised. And her love of Hussein could not be waived. And with her, his memory was saved and his legacy was paved. Her reward? Her story was raised. It's you in your racial hate that is depraved. Tell me, did you serve Hussein in your hate? We need a further investigation that may cause vexation, but we're not here for a pleasant vacation. We hate ISIS for causing a crisis and leaving a trail of the lifeless. We fight this and we highlight this and momentarily demonstrate our kindness. But we turn a blind eye to our own blindness, and this cannot be the actions of the righteous. In gatherings, we speak of Khadijah's bravery and say Islam plays no part in sexual slavery. But we have to speak of the unsavory. Our women fear us daily as we expose them to more violence than an Israeli. How can you cry for Zainab when your daughter cries from the beatings that she had? Yours was the hand that rocked the cradle, and now you beat her with a ladle. How can you say, I will defend and comfort Sukaina, when your own sister, you tried to rape her? I know these are facts that we don't like to hear, but it's time to speak up so these women don't have to live in fear. Let me break down the facts so that true men can act. 2 women are killed every week because their men were weak. 1 in 4 women will experience violence. Some men will use faith as a license. The police receive a call every minute, and every man says he never did it. A woman will be assaulted 35 times before she calls the police. That is a number that needs to cease because I'm tired of the deceased. 30 women every day will try to escape the violence, preferring death than a life of silence. 3 women every week will succeed. Tired every day they have to bleed. 20% of children have been exposed to violence. That could be the child who's always silent. 62% of children have been directly harmed. Ask the question, where did he get that broken arm? I've seen the bruises of the women black and blue. Now here's a question I want to pose to you. What separates you from Yazid? He paid others to do his deed. Did you take pleasure when you saw your wife bleed and heard your daughter plead? You see, I can hear the screams with an audible. This behavior is deplorable and can never be laudable. For a child in the house full of violence, the worst part is the silence. In the dark and the gloom, you hear the thud and the boom of mummy being thrown across the room, praying she doesn't end up in her tomb. In their affliction, the victim suffers a contradiction to the one responsible for the painful infliction, loving the man they hate and hating the man they love. Surely this could not be the decree from above. Killing in the name of family honor is no justification. In reality, it's you who dishonor the Muslim nation. Did you have the right to kill God's creation? You became a slave to satanic temptation. Now you stand in damnation, and true men say that without hesitation. Because your behavior is an aberration, how do you justify yourself to God in prostration? Surely your heart must feel some agitation. Is it suffering from spiritual starvation, in need of Quranic elevation? It's not too late for your salvation. Remember Hur, who repented and joined those who were tempted, and was one of those who attended. To Hussein he surrendered, who heard his words and fought. Splendid, with peace the angels descended. The Imam recommended, you are a free man, just as your mother named you. God willing, you're free in this life and in the hereafter. For those that suffer valiantly, remember Hussein in his agony. There is an end to the brutality and a victory to the tragedy. Wear your scars like a medal. It shows you're made of the toughest metal. And your attacker was weak like the devil. He couldn't reach and defeat your spiritual level. You was the one that was successful. You survived the days that were dreadful. So let them be the ones regretful. Before God, they will tremble and claim it was accidental, and you was the one who was temperamental, and you caused them to be detrimental, and their violence was incidental. In reality, it was fundamental, and they neglected to be gentle and treated you like an object, ornamental, and your feelings were non-essential. God saw your potential. Your experiences were essential. You could be influential in your character. It's Hussein you resemble. So behind his banner, let the weak and the oppressed assemble and gain a victory that is transcendental, majestic and reverential. Upon the pulpit are those who exploit it, fanning the flames of hate, and some take the bait. And you wonder why the violence escalates. For some, your rhetoric resonates. For those thriving on sectarian debates, of this type of Islam, true Muslims can't relate. I know this is not what God wanted to propagate. So let's take a moment and hesitate and ask, what is the true prophetic and Hussein trait? If we hold up a mirror and we see the picture much clearer and see the problem is much nearer, our hearts wither on unity, we dither, fearful of being a hate figure. But stand up even if you're alone and be like the hardest stone. Remember, drones don't differentiate. Shia and Sunni, they will both obliterate. Is death the only thing upon which we cooperate? Abrogate the part you played in hate. Heaven is only achieved by those who reach a higher state. In this, Hussein I'll emulate. How can you claim to be the supporters of Hussein when you propagate sectarianism? Have you forgot his father taught him humanitarianism? Was it not Ali who said, man is either your brother in faith or your equal in humanity? How can you claim to follow the way of his grandfather, the Prophet, when you marginalize and ostracize his family? I remember Imam Shafi'i when he said, O people of the Prophet of God, love for you has been made obligatory for us. It is sufficient for your dignity that if one does not send salutations to you in the prayers, his prayers will not be accepted. If loving the household of the Prophet is a sin, I will never repent upon this sin. Hussein had no part in sectarianism. He understood it was egoism, part of Satanism, the ultimate negativism. I support those who call for collectivism. So stay true to the revolution, oppose all persecution, and ask, what's your contribution? The world is in need of restitution. The people are sick of convolution, leading to confusion and illusion, a world led by politicians in satanic collusion. There can be no accommodation with human degradation. The only solution? Confrontation, peaceful but with validation. Let the tyrant bring it to escalation. I hear people say, that's a simplification. But I believe it should be the motto of this great nation. For Hussein, it was his motivation. Jazakallah khair.